There's an old saying that defense wins championships, but great offensive players will always find ways to score. The best scorers in NBA history usually mastered a move that defenders couldn't stop, resulting in broken records, scoring titles, and MVPs. But most importantly, signature moves won championships and created dynasties. These are the 10 most unguardable moves in NBA history.
When you got that one move you can't stop, it's hard.
The first great scorer in NBA history was George Mikan. But Mikan was soon overshadowed by Wilt Chamberlain, the most mythical scorer in NBA history. Most of Wilt's scoring records never going to be broken, like the 50 points he averaged across an entire season, the number of 30 and 40-point games, or the time he scored 100 against the Knicks. And even though he could overpower opponents with his sheer size and strength, that was boring for Wilt. And he wanted to be remembered as a finesse player, rather than just a brute who dominated because he was stronger than everybody. So Wilt developed a finger roll, which he used to great effect, often leaning into defenders and getting close to the hoop, while they couldn't do much to stop him. And even though the finger roll later became synonymous with George Gervin, who used it from longer distances and also while driving to the basket, Wilt was the originator. And due to his legendary scoring prowess, he deserves to be mentioned when there's any discussion about unguardable moves. An honorable mention goes to Wilt's only successor in terms of physical dominance in the post, Shaquille O'Neal. There were other 7-footers who weighed north of 300 pounds, but what set Shaq apart was his agility and quickness. And in his prime, O'Neal's combination of size and speed made him unguardable. Shaq's favorite move was to post up and lean on the defender with all his mass. And because the defender used all his strength and focus just to stay in place, Shaq would spin off him and dunk the ball. He named this move the Black Tornado because he would spin so fast and with such power that it became unstoppable. However, while Shaq was still in Orlando, one legendary center proved not only that he wasn't afraid of the Big Diesel, but that he was better than him. Due to his soccer background, Hakeem Olajuwon was extremely nimble and graceful with his movement, with crossovers and pull-up jumpers regularly on the menu in Olajuwon's basketball kitchen. But there was one move that he perfected and made famous that was the deadliest of all, the Dream Shake. The Dream Shake consists of pivoting to one side, then quickly counter-pivoting to the other to shake off your opponent and get a free look at the basket. But that's easier said than done, and nobody did it or can do it like Hakeem. Despite Olajuwon teaching the move to numerous NBA superstars, the Dream Shake remains unique to Hakeem. It was as elegant as it was effective and remains one of the most unguardable moves in NBA history. We should also mention arguably the second best post scorer of the 80s and early 90s, and the only big man who could match Hakeem's virtuosity in the paint, Kevin McHale. McHale had phenomenal footwork, with counter moves to everything, and defenses couldn't figure him out. It got to the point that they were calling him a man with 1,000 moves. You couldn't guard him one-on-one in the box. He had such great footwork, and he did such a great job of feeling the contact. And once he felt you, you were done, said Dominique Wilkins, while Charles Barkley called McHale the toughest player he ever had to guard. Between 1984 and 1990, McHale averaged 22 points per game on an incredible 57% shooting from the field, leading the league in shooting efficiency twice. The main reason for his effective scoring was his trademark move, the up and under, which was done with the slippery eel. McHale would fake a shot, then lean under the defender for a scoop shot off the backboard. And because he had a plethora of other moves, nobody could predict when it was coming. And even though many other players used the up and under, Kevin McHale did it best, and his slippery eel was unguardable. Now, when McHale became a coach for the Rockets, he worked with the most genius foul drawing artist in NBA history. James Harden took foul baiting to a whole different level with his patented hooking of opponents' arms before taking a shot. And even though his foul baiting was effective and made him a league leader in free throw attempts in 7 seasons, Harden also did other things that bent the rules of basketball as we know it. The Beard became known for the step-back three-pointer, a move so unguardable that teams actually had to start guarding him from the back, with the sole purpose of denying James his signature move. And due to the infamous step-gather rule, Harden realized that he could take multiple steps before actually picking up the ball, which made it appear that he traveled. But Harden was just exploiting a loophole, after which he created several feet of separation, and the defenders couldn't.
That's what fans don't get. Fans like, why he doing this? Tell the referees and the NBAs don't put it in, bro. Like, fix your rules, bro. Well, I'm gonna give you these 60
On
points.
average, the Harden step back creates about 6 feet of space, according to Second Spectrum. By the time Harden brings the ball through his shot pocket, the defender attempting to close the gap is always too late. And even though the step back isn't anything new, and it's routinely done by players like Larry Bird and Paul Pierce, Harden perfected it, moved it behind the three-point arc, and it became his signature move. one of the most unstoppable offensive actions of all time. And just like Harden, one of his main rivals for MVP awards in the past decade also took an ordinary offensive move and added a twist to it to make it deadly. The Eurostep was first introduced to the NBA by Sarunas Marciulionis in the early 90s, but it was popularized by Manu Ginobili, who made it a frequent part of his offensive diet. Many other players have mastered the move since, but nobody has done it quite as effectively as Giannis Antetokounmpo. Due to his long strides,
Giannis got the best Euro.
Wingspan,
He got the most dangerous one.
Athleticism, Giannis can
I
take
think
off
Manu
several
and James
feet
Harden
further
Euro
than
might be-
everybody else. And because he's also strong and could palm the ball, there isn't much a defender can do when the Greek freak attacks with a full head of steam. It's actually pretty impressive how a player that tall could be so fast with the ball, decelerate to throw the defender off balance, and then still contort his body and finish strong at the rim. Honorable mention goes to Luka Doncic, whose whole game is based around deceleration and keeping opponents off balance, finishing with a myriad of offensive moves, such as Eurosteps and step backs. Doncic proved that you can dominate by mastering angles and footwork, and nobody was better at understanding angles than the big fundamental, Timothy Theodore Duncan. Every player who has ever played basketball at any level used the backboard to score shots from the side of the basket, especially when attempting a layup. However, Timmy was the first and only player to use the backboard on his jumpers consistently and at a greater distance than anyone before him. Just when a defender figured he'd cut off Duncan's driving lanes and was in a perfect position to block or alter Timmy's shot, standing right in front of Duncan, the greatest power forward in NBA history then simply shot beside the defender, using the glass to bounce the ball to the hoop. That bank shot provided an extra angle Duncan could use when the defender had a hand in his face, and it was basically unguardable due to Timmy's size and length and the unique angles the bank shot offered. The shot itself isn't sexy, it's not cool, and it often looks kinda awkward, which was the essence of Tim Duncan himself, and that's what made it a perfect match. Honorable mention goes to his teammate Tony Parker, whose spin move looked like it was performed by a
Tony
ballet
Parker,
dancer.
yeah.
And along with an
I forgot
equally
about Tony
effective
Parker's
teardrop
spin
floater, Tony helped Duncan win 4 more championships. But Duncan wasn't the only player who became synonymous with his patented shot. 1 year after Timmy got drafted, a blonde 7-footer joined the NBA from Germany, and by the time he retired, he was the 5th best scorer in NBA history.
That's
Dirk
crazy.
Nowitzki is often considered the best shooting big man in NBA history, and a big reason for that is his signature shot, the one-legged fadeaway. Dirk practiced this move with his longtime trainer Holger Geschwindner, a German coach who realized Nowitzki wouldn't be able to jump high enough to create separation with a traditional fadeaway. Instead, Dirk simply leaned back and used his height to shoot over the defender, with his pivot leg providing the balance and the separation he needed to take the shot off. Nowitzki didn't need any space to shoot, as he used his leg to create the space for the shot, while the high release point made it impossible to block. That signature move single-handedly, or single-leggedly, if you will, helped Dirk score over 30,000 points. Unlike some other players on this list who just made standard moves famous, the single-legged fadeaway was never seen before Dirk, which makes it even more unique. But as we know, this game is always evolving, and another European MVP made his hometown famous with his own version of the fadeaway. Nikola Jokic was born in Sombor, a small town in Serbia. And when he was growing up, nobody could have predicted that a chubby kid like him would win multiple MVPs and have an unguardable shot in the NBA. The Sombor shuffle is part fadeaway, part step back turned into one. And just like Nikola's game, it's unorthodox and off balance. But just like the Joker, it's unguardable and extremely effective, while also being quite demoralizing for the opponent. During the 2023 title run, Jokic splashed several of his trademark shots against the Lakers, most notably against Anthony Davis, who could match Joker's size and wingspan, but even he was helpless against the Sombor shuffle.
Even when you guard him for one of the best possessions that you think you've guarded him, he puts the ball behind his head, Larry Bird style, and shoots
made
it
that
50
shit
feet in the air, and it goes in. They did it like 4 or 5 times this series.
Nasty.
According to NBA.com tracking data, 727 of Jokic's 1,022 field goal attempts during the 2023 season qualified as being tightly contested, and he made a preposterous 65% of those shots.
being off balance. I'm off balance my whole life, so that's kind of normal for me.
With
I
his
feel you,
feathery
big,
touch, size, and the ability to make shots off balance while simultaneously having eyes at the back of his head, Jokic turned into one of the best offensive players the league had ever seen, while his herky-jerky trademark shot became one of the most unguardable moves in NBA history. But while nobody can quite replicate the Sombor shuffle, this next move is arguably the most common move in basketball, and yet
The
nobody
long
could
cross?
do it quite like Allen Iverson. AI's crossover was a thing of beauty, and how he did it was different from any other player. Iverson would bring the ball as far as possible to the left, then far to the right, to lull the opponent to sleep, only to leave him in the dust with one of the quickest first steps in NBA history. When Iverson was in his prime, his opponents were in constant fear of getting their ankles broken by his crossover due to its speed, shiftiness, and low center of gravity. And even though other players had crossover due to its speed, shiftiness, and low center of gravity. And even though other players had famous crossovers, like Tim Hardaway, Steve Smith with his Smitty, and Jamal Crawford with the Shake and Bake, AI remains the crossover king, as his version was the hardest to guard. Iverson was a trailblazer for high-scoring point guards, and Steph Curry mimicked a lot of AI's moves, but
pull-up
then
three?
took it to a whole different
That's
level.
a move?
Curry revolutionized basketball through his shooting, taking a high volume of shots with great efficiency. Steph's movement without the ball is second to none, even though his off-ball motion is heavily influenced by great shooters like Reggie Miller, Ray Allen, and Drazen Petrovic. But what sets Curry apart is the ability to make threes off the dribble better than anyone. Steph's quick release became an extension of his dribble, and
Come
due
here,
to his
step
range,
back.
he can
That's
pull up from
nasty.
anywhere,
That's
which
nasty.
forces defenses to guard him as soon as he crosses half court. With great handles and constant movement and that quick release, Steph Curry's pull-up three became arguably the deadliest weapon in modern basketball.
Yeah.
However, there's one player whose pull-up game might be even better, even though he usually operates inside the three-point line. Kevin Durant is a shooting guard with the height of a center, and at 7 foot with a 7'5" wingspan and impeccable handles,
pull-up midi
there's
nasty.
nothing opponents can do when he races up. Durant coined the term hezzy pull-up midi.
Ooh, he ain't corner to him hezzy pull up. That's Melo. But hezzy pull up midi, that's KD. SGA, my boy, he like that now too. But
Referring
KD,
to mid-range jumpers
second-place player of
after
all
a
time?
hesitation dribble. That split second of hesitation, when the defender doesn't know if Durant will continue his dribble and drive the ball, is all that KD needs to simply pull up and sink a jumper in their face. Durant became so proficient in this shot that it doesn't matter if opponents have a hand in his face, because KD doesn't even see him. However you try to guard him, it doesn't matter, as the ball will usually go in, either from mid-range or even way behind the three-point arc. But when the defenders stand too close for KD to use the pull-up, Durant has also popularized the rip-through, an offensive move designed to draw a foul. If he feels the defender's body on him, KD will quickly go to a shooting motion through the defender's extended arms, which is usually a death sentence and a guaranteed trip to the free throw line. Now, before KD became one of the best scorers in NBA history, there were two other guys whose patented shot was like poetry in motion: Michael Jordan and Kobe Bryant, who perfected the fadeaway. It was hard to guard
Fadeaway.
Michael anyway, but just when a defender thought he had done a great job and cut all his lanes, Jordan would simply jump backward to create space and shoot after the defender fell down, perfectly in balance with his feet high
Kobe fade. Hey man, let me know in the comments what y'all favorite move is, and let me know if y'all know a player that got a move that he ain't talk about in this video. Let
off
me
the
know.
ground and body perfectly tilted toward the basket. The fadeaway was the big reason why Michael was named Air Jordan. Due to MJ's insane hang time and body control, the fadeaway allowed him to simply out-jump his defender and get an open look every time, which made it one of the most unguardable moves in NBA history. And Kobe Bryant was often called the second coming of Michael Jordan because of the obvious similarities between them. They played the same position, had similar size and killer mentality, and their moves, including the fadeaway, were almost identical. But neither Michael nor Kobe had the most unguardable shot ever. There's only one signature move that can be put in that category, and it was perfected by one of the greatest players of all time, who used this deadly move to become the all-time leading scorer, a title he held until 2023, when he was surpassed by LeBron James. Kareem Abdul-Jabbar is 7'2" with a
skyhook,
7'5"
boy.
wingspan, and his signature skyhook was released at the highest point of his arm, which made it almost impossible to block. In fact, Wilt Chamberlain was the only person ever to record a block on Kareem's patented
Give me that.
shot. Kareem said he developed the shot because he often played with older competition as a kid, and that it was the only shot he could shoot that didn't get smashed back in his face. And once he grew the way he did, there was nothing opponents could do to stop him. For the majority of his career, all Kareem needed to do to score was to establish a post position, usually on the right block, put his hand in the air, and wait for the ball to arrive.
And
Once it was in his
spin,
hands,
skyhook.
he simply turned over his shoulder and
That's nasty.
skyhooked the hell out of everybody, en route to over 38,000 points.
That's
It was
crazy.
simple but effective. And because Kareem scored most of his 38,387 points with his signature move, that's why the skyhook is often considered the most unguardable shot in NBA history.
That's a fact. I ain't gonna lie. He got it. The skyhook, he didn't score, and that was just basically not one of his only moves, but the moves he went to the most of the time to score points, that's crazy. Skyhook is definitely number one. I don't think the Kobe fade was number two. I don't think the fade is number two, though. I'm gonna be honest. with y'all. I'm gonna go to crossover. That's just me, though. Let me know in the comments what y'all think, though, and what's y'all favorite move, but I'm gonna see y'all next one, man. Nowhere.